or like other Bitcoiners, have you been sucked down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and thinking wider about the economy and the role of the state and central banks?
So initially, my view was very narrow, and
Okay.
I was looking at it as from a supply and demand and from a greed standpoint. Not necessarily on my part of greed, but I'm saying that the investment community is going to get behind this because the fee compression on a lot of other investment products was causing problems in profitability, and they're going to look for an alternative to get higher fees. So I thought that ultimately that the investment community, Wall Street, if you will, would get behind it. As I've come to learn and to listen to podcasts like yourself and other podcasts and listening to Michael Saylor, there's multiple dimensions to what Bitcoin is. And now I'm of the belief that the world really needs Bitcoin or some type of cryptocurrency that can't be debased at the whim of bankers or politicians. So to answer your question, I'm far, far down the rabbit hole, and
Great.
philosophically, I'm cheering it on a daily basis. And I really think it does and has the potential to fix a lot of the world's problems.
So can we go into this Bitcoin background? Because I've heard it before, but I want other people to tell the story of what happened in 2015 with was it a colleague or a business partner who presented you the white paper?
So my colleague is Murray Stahl, and
Yeah.
he's a brilliant guy. He has a background in computer science and mathematics, and one of his hobbies is cryptography. So somebody put on his desk the Bitcoin white paper, and it sat there for a number of months. He finally came in one morning and said, "You know what? I need to read this. I've been hearing some things about it. Let me sit down and read it." So it's 9 pages long, right? He reads it. He immediately recognizes this is revolutionary. He gets up. He walks down to my office. I'm literally next to him. He tells me about it. And I would say within 90 seconds, I said, okay, if you're telling me that you think the security protocol is such that the blockchain itself will never be hacked and there's a finite supply, then ultimately the demand will overwhelm that supply. And basic economics is the correcting mechanism is the price. And I said, I want in. The reason I could get up to speed that quickly is I can control my risk by the sizing of it. So thinking from a risk management standpoint, a portfolio manager standpoint, if I make the position a 1% position, people may think I'm a little nutty at the time. But even if it went to zero over the course of 2 years, 3 years, I'm losing 50 basis points, 30 basis points. It's a rounding error potentially in the portfolio. But in terms of what it meant from the upside, I never saw an investment or an opportunity that had such asymmetric upside. And that I understood almost immediately. That didn't require a lot. I was primed for that understanding. My broader understanding has come from listening to podcasts such as yours and Michael Saylor, and thinking of it from more of a scientific standpoint and more of a kind of a battery in transporting wealth into the future without losing any of its charge. And you know what I find most interesting is that the people that I find easiest to understand tend to have an engineering background. And they just think about things more logically. And when you sit there and you listen to it, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And suddenly you're looking at it from a whole different perspective. So I would say that, my understanding, as I mentioned, was fairly narrow. It's become much broader with the passage of time. And it really prevents you from being cheated of your time, which is the most precious thing in life, and your wealth, which is also pretty important to most people. So when you commit to working and you get a paycheck, you want that money to basically be able to buy the things that you desire in life. And you don't want it to be debased in a way that now suddenly you've worked your whole life and you're on a fixed income and prices have risen so much because they've inflated the money stock so aggressively that you can't afford the things that you would hope to do. And that's unfortunately the world I think we're entering. So anyone that's on a fixed income from here going forward, I think is going to be in for a very unpleasant surprise. And they did nothing wrong, and that's unfortunate. And I think that's going to cause some real problems throughout society around the world.